opportunity in the future to chat about how we're feeling, because that's always important to us at Root and River. All right.
Ready to go.
Hopeful and calm. Looks good. Here's the results of that. The winner. Well, I want to welcome you all and thank you so much for joining us today. We're really glad to have you here as a team. And we have a lot of content for you, and it's all very interactive, so we don't want to spend too much time talking about ourselves or on introductions, but we do want to give you a hi and hello from each of us. So we decided that we wanted to kind of open up today by introducing each one of ourselves and sharing one thing that has had a lot of meaning for us in this time of crisis, since that's what we're all here to talk about today. And so I will kick that off. And then each one of our Root and River team members will jump on and tell us about themselves and their role and what has had meaning for them. So for me, oh, yes, Justin.
Real quick, I'm sorry, format wise, just so everyone knows kind of the engagement here is because there's a lot of people on, we're not going with cameras on your end, but if you have something to share, just raise your hand digitally. One of us will notice that and we'll call on you and unmute you, and you can share your thoughts. As far as roles, like often happens in a Root session, which is our primary client experience, Emily is facilitating and drawing, and I'm just facilitating, so I've got the easier job. And then Kat and Jen are providing their insights and wisdom as inspired. Carry on, Emily.
Yeah. So for me, I'm the co-founder of Root and River, and I am so lucky to work with these three individuals. This seems weird to say the word work, because what we do doesn't feel like work. It feels like mission, it feels like fun, sometimes it feels like goofing off, and I love those moments. So my thing that's had a lot of meaning for me lately in the last 3 weeks, I would say it has brought me a lot of meaning is just my creative energy. It seems to have stirred up quite a bit. It's also something I've been working on nurturing over the last couple of years in particular and focusing on, but I don't know whether it's the chaos of the moment has spawned me to really just feel inspired to create, and just given me a renewed sense of meaning of who I am and who I've always been, but it seems to have come to the fore for me. So that's me, off to one of my team. All right, calling on someone. Kat, you're next.
Repeat the question.
The question is, what is one thing that has in this last few weeks, in the midst of this kind of crisis time, has popped up for you that has a lot of meaning, or that's connected you to meaning?
I would say, for me, it's been connecting with being outside more. I get busy with the bustle of the day and the to-dos that I often don't take those breaks. And now they're kind of essential in my life. Those sun breaks, those walk breaks, those sidewalk chalk breaks, all of those outside moments have been what's been there for me. For sure.
Awesome, thanks. Jen?
Yeah, I've found a lot of meaning and purpose in our ability to share lately, our ability to share emotions, share stories, in an attempt to be more creative in the way we connect with one another. So I've been really inspired by just people being very vulnerable right now. And I think that's just what the world needs right now, a little vulnerability.
Yes, thank you. Justin?
Yeah, I think that, I think that my search for meaning started a while ago. And so what I've seen is more of a verification of what's important. So relationships are important. Like somebody pointed out, it turns out we can live without movie stars and athletes, but we can't live without doctors and truckers and nurses and farmers and ranchers.
And so your neighbors walking by and waving hi.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I'm finding meaning, like a renewed meaning and connection, like what it means to connect with other humans that you wouldn't normally get while it's busy. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, we're going to dig into what's meaningful for you right now, but I'll let Justin take the lead as we do that.
Yeah, we would like to hear from you in the chat is what, you could just submit however you'd like to answer this, is why are you here? What brought you here? What is your intention for being here? And as you get in, as you think of your answers, we wanted to kind of do a level set around what we mean by meaning. And so we'll do a little back and forth here between us, but the key to this and where this came from is that finding meaning is really much more, it's not, finding meaning isn't even really maybe the proper term. It's refining, like rediscovering meaning. And and so we hope, and when we're bringing up this topic, that what we're going to do by the time we're done is remind you of what you already have. That I think we believe all souls carry meaning from within, and we just get detached from that meaning. So reconnecting with the meaning you already have, which then changes your lens to how you see the world and find meaning in the world that maybe you didn't, maybe you were missing it because of the busyness or the whatevers.
Mm-hmm.
We think that meaning really begins, internally. Our mission at Root and River is to inspire leaders to go inward. That's where all the answers are. That's where all the truth lies. And so in a time like this, when there's so much chaos around us externally, I think that people are returning to that, as you said, Justin. And then the space we're trying to create today is, how do we go from finding those internal meaning footholds and toeholds, maybe it's just a toehold, to pairing those with our external resources. And we wrote about this a little bit in the copy that we put out about this time together, is how do we take what we found inside of us and then pair that with our external resources? And then what does that mean, to use that word again, or how does that direct us moving forward? And what kind of energy can we gain from pairing those two things, the internal meaning and then the external resources that we have? And that's part of what we're going to dive into. But we think it starts internally, and then it sort of is a coupling process, and then it's sort of moving out into the world.
So we refer to the external as material assets. These are the tangible things that you have access to, that you like your network. It could be technology, skills, savings, a rich uncle, whatever. Those are material assets. And those are important, of course, because they are the tools for living, and there can be meaning found even in those tools. So meaning is not only an inside game. But the inside, or the internal resources, we refer to as spiritual assets. And like all of our language of Root and River, when we say spiritual, we don't mean religious. We mean of the soul, of the realm that is separate from the material, the unexplainable, the mystery, the magic, whatever y'all want to call it. We refer to it as a spiritual asset.
It looks like people are on their intentions, which is beautiful, and they seem to dovetail, which happens with Root and River quite a bit. Things are sort of dovetailing. So Erica says, as we move through this, I think it's important to stay connected in your heart space, what you can do on the inside to continue feeding your souls on higher purpose. Amen. Agree to that. Trying to reconnect with people I know. Love that, Tim. Reaching out. That's Jen, that's exactly what you talked about.
Nicole, Nicole, you're talking about your Reiki practice popping up as your true calling, and I love that. This is one of the things that we're seeing, is when you have this realization that, hey, the things I've been doing to try to make it, I don't really enjoy those things, or maybe the people you've been doing it with, you don't really enjoy having them around. So there's this great surfacing. That, to use your word, Nicole, there's a surfacing that's coming up that's pretty super interesting.
It's great. All right. Anyone else want to share an opportunity to see who and what is really important? Anne says, absolutely. Knowing that the pause brings clarity, refocus, and new awareness, Samantha says. Allowing myself to be with what's all around me. And my 4-year-old daughter, yes, wonderful. The joy that comes from her presence, beautiful. Mike says to learn, grow, and encourage and spur other people on. That's beautiful. Awesome. Well, thank you for those intentions. Are y'all ready? Should we get going? Should we dig into this? Let's figure this out.
So our first exercise that we're going to have you do, if you have a piece of paper handy, or if you want to use technology, however you want to do it, what we would like you to do is jot down at least, see if you can jot down at least 5 material assets. And we'll give you a little metaphor here. So you can imagine if you've seen any of the Survivor shows like Survivor Man or Bear Grylls or the show Alone, one of the things they teach you is to take inventory of what you have. Or Tom Hanks in Castaway took inventory of what he had to work with and used, his material asset was a ice skating boot that he used to crack open coconuts. So it's thinking in terms of that. So jot down, if you can, 5 material assets that you have immediate access to. And then as you jot those down, if you want to share yours, just raise your hand and we'll call on you. And you can share what your all or some of your those that you listed. I got a request to repeat. So it's up on the screen. What are 5 material assets you have access to? You get to see Emily's live drawings.
And we have some examples too.
Yeah. Go ahead, Em.
Oh, I have to change screens. So
oh, okay.
Some of the examples are just maybe you found yourself with you've got a nice little savings. It could be something very practical. It could be a home office that you have access to. So that would be an asset. What else, Justin?
Nicole, I can read some. Do you
yeah,
want me to read
please.
you?
Gotcha, yeah.
Nicole says home, car, cash, clothing, and tech. Leandra says food and my camera. I love that.
Good.
Mike had his hand raised too, I think I saw somewhere. But
oh yeah, Mike does. Okay, Mike, we're gonna have you share yours. Go ahead, Mike, you're on the air. Just need to unmute yourself. Maybe I need to do that. There you go.
First time caller, long time listener.
Yeah.
Sorry. My 5 assets are Zoom, Facebook, an email list of people, my virtual COO, Catherine, who's been she's just a lifesaver during this time, in family.
yeah.
It's weird to think of your family as assets, but I guess they are.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other shares that want to go live? You can, if you don't want to share voice-wise, you can certainly share in chat as well.
I hope I'm saying this right, but is it Drea or Drea? My home office, healthy food, modest savings, healthcare, and creative software.
I love that. That's a perfect example of what we're talking about.
And then Anne says home office, class I'm learning to teach via Zoom, great contacts, and my significant other.
Yeah, I think Leandra said food and my camera and home. Lisa Jane, my yoga mat.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think we're extra appreciative probably of Wi-Fi as an asset. That's a interesting thing that we didn't have the last time, in 1918. No Wi-Fi then. Tim, plenty of toilet paper. Maybe that's a side business.
Yeah. Jean says, he closed my camera, iPad, laptop, yes on the yoga.
Any others want to share? How about you, Jen and Kat? What are some things that you would list as material assets for yourselves?
I put things like IP that I've created, my portfolio of past work, and I threw in my imagination.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit more on the spiritual side, but
No, it's great.
yeah.
How about you, Kat?
I wrote ability to cook, to provide, to feed my family, and to bake, to bring joy into the mundane. I also wrote protection with my dog Rosie. She is like, I don't need anything other than her to protect the entire family and house and property. She is fierce and always on guard. And then I wrote very same as others have written: food, home, shelter, water, clean water.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for clean water right now for some reason. It's amazing how primal you get with some of these things when you start thinking about, like, I really only need like these 5 things and I'm good.
Right.
Amazing to me how.
Yeah, it's I don't know if this made, we have a deck of cards that we give to our coaching clients called TPQ cards. I don't know if this one made the final cut, but this was I think one of the questions. If you had to go on the run, what are 5 things you would take with you? Is that in there? I don't remember if that's even in
Yes.
there.
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is.
So it's, who knew that that we would we'd be using it here. I would only add camping equipment, and with that, the know-how and ability to make fire. And then my version of personal protection. So
there's a couple other, I don't know, Justin, if you got it up, but you got some other sharers here that have added some things if you want to.
Oh, great. Yeah. Pets. Music for the, I don't know how to pronounce that word, but it's like brain music. Mike Rainey, mentors, relationships, work infrastructure, current contracts, savings. Nice list.
I like Erica's hiking boots and new fancy poles so my knees don't hurt.
Oh, I didn't see that. That's good. Protein powder and blender for smoothies.
Yes.
How about you, Em? Is anything to add to anything that nobody mentioned that you would have?
Oops. My car, I guess, would be, we can always take a road trip or jump in the car and go. My art supplies, pulled out a canvas last weekend and painted. Felt right. My yard. We have a really nice yard, and I always appreciate it, but I especially appreciate it now.
Yeah. Right. All right. So there's the next poll that we have as we transition to the next thing we're going to do is just a simple yes, no. And there it is. If you're calling in via phone, so just because you might not be able, you just hear us talking, as the question is, did you list more than 5 material assets? Yes or no? So as you consider this, right now it's 69% have said yes. It goes to then when you know, keep making this list and returning to it from a psychological standpoint, returning to your list of assets when you're feeling afraid is a source of like legit grounding, because you know what you're working with, because your mind is spinning. And so going to these material assets and looking at this list and continue to expand it. We'd also recommend, if you have family, kids, is put it up somewhere so they can see it, because they're feeling some of the same maybe fears. And then also consider what's on your list that you could share with someone else, like Tim and his toilet paper. So, and if you said no, what we would just ask you to do, or request of you, is to maybe ponder this a little bit more, and see if you can, and it goes to kind of what Jen said about the asset of imagination, of thinking in terms of what you have access to. You may not necessarily think of as an asset, or like Emily said, her yard. So it's still a material asset in the sense that you can do something with it. So continue to dig into it, and we pretty sure you'll find more than 5 if you dig.
Yeah. 71%. Oh no, it's good. 67% yes, and 33% no. So it's like it's a final.
Right.
All right, we're gonna move over a column.
I was going to
To
say,
spiritual.
precise people though, you only asked for 5. So I'm married to a rule follower, and he would have thought of lots, but he would have only written 5 because we only asked for 5. So,
Good point. Good point. All right, let's move into spiritual assets. And gold star for Dave.
no.
Spiritual assets.
Too. He followed directions.
Yeah, Jason's the follow direction.
I knew it. I knew they were out there for sure.
All right, so spiritual assets. So our definition of spiritual assets are like characteristics of yourself, beliefs that you have, maybe convictions that you have, that they act as a source of inner strength and inspiration and fortitude. So this is sort of a little bit of what we were talking about earlier when we talked about meaning, where we're finding sort of spiritual juice from. So could be, like Jen pointed out, imagination. That could kind of go material, spiritual. It could be, gifts and talents that you have. So try to jot down spiritual assets that you have. So for example, creativity, I mentioned that earlier, self-care skills, generosity, courage, decisiveness, resilience, all of those are examples.
Yeah, they used to call these soft skills, and then they realized that's not true. They're not soft at all. They're very, very necessary, especially in a crisis.
Well, that's changing. There's still a lot of reference to these as soft skills. So that's one of my personal campaigns to change the designation. Ain't nothing soft about having resilience.
So in the spirit of rule followers, name as many as you can of your spiritual assets. And then the same thing, if you want to share yours out, raise your hand. If you want to go live, or share it in the chat box if you just want to share there.
All right, so I'm getting a few in here in chat. Kat, you want to read some of those off for us?
Go ahead, Kat or Jen.
And you want to read some?
Sure. Mike Rainey, acceptance, authenticity, desire for improvement, desire to make a difference, perseverance, Reiki practice, empathy, compassion, resilience. Stephanie, collaborative, calming to others, positive, resilient, resourceful, giving, and helpful. Jason, steadiness, creativity, bravery, humbleness, humor, empathy, sales. Did more than 5 this time. Sammy Midler, hi Sammy. Yoga, mantras, smashing negative thoughts, cooking, self-care. Quite the list there, Sammy. Awesome. Jean, gratitude, optimism, creativity. A lot of empathy, listening, curiosity. Tim says curiosity, integrity. Great answers. Mike, more listening, creativity, creative storytelling, more empathy, problem solving, and ability to care deeply for others. Yes. Courage. It's a good one. Erica, visualizations, my dreams. Nice work, everyone.
I saw fortitude in the list too.
Yeah. I
Dave.
might have missed a few, so feel free to call.
The past crisis experience.
Yeah.
That is, yeah, if you've been if you've been through something, you know, like whatever it would be, it could be personal trauma, it could be you served in the military or first responder or something, or maybe you immigrated here from some place that was not you know, that was dangerous, and you know, there was a lot of that all, like, that's all deepens our spiritual assets to have that type of stuff. Tim wants to buy your font.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Anne. Past crises, bounce back from cancer, and it would not kill me. Yeah, you're folks that have survived cancer or major illness. Again, this meaning comes from a deep inward place that seems to only be accessed through some level of suffering. And so I guess conversely, I feel some empathy. I probably should feel more than I feel, but I feel some empathy for people that haven't suffered anything at this point, because there's no point of reference to it. Our team, what would you add here that you haven't seen anyone else say yet?
I would say my ability, my writing. It's a spiritual gift. It's also kind of practical, but writing ability, expression.
I saw Tim said it too. It was on I think it was the second one on my list, was sense of humor.
Yeah.
That's gotten us really far in my house. The men I live with, all of them are jokesters, and so sense of humor, being able to laugh at just getting silliness, sense of humor, jokes, you know, things like that I don't know, just add levity to the day.
Yeah, I put my steadiness and long-term thinking. I think my steadiness in particular has been very helpful the past few weeks, and just the ability to burn slow.
I think Jason wrote steadiness too. I thought I saw that.
Oh, you know, I think he did.
Yeah, I think that's, I mean, I'm not taking that away from you. I'm just saying that's something that, knowing both of you, that you both bring that for sure to the world.
I would say that I was just scrolling back up, I don't think anybody said this one, is intuition. There's a book from the early 90s called The Gift of Fear, which is about, it's written by a guy, Gavin somebody, that talks about that this onboard fear indicator is actually an incredible asset if you can harness it as opposed to just react to it. And then you deepen that into more of the spiritual of then intuition around what needs to be done. Like one of the things that I've been doing is if someone crosses my heart, I text them immediately. Just, how you doing? And what's interesting through this process is I'm reaching out to people I haven't talked to in maybe a couple years. They're coming to my heart to reach out to.
Awesome.
Are you saying we should all pause and text somebody that we're thinking about right this second?
No, I would never tell you what to do for that.
I'm doing it right now.
All right.
Lovely list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like
All
that,
right.
Nicole. Reaching out to someone new each day. Yeah. It's interesting. You get your inner world in order. It's so much easier to go add some order to the outer world. It's almost impossible, I think, to create order in the outer world if your inner world is in a mess. So it's almost like this need to reach out and connect is more about it's about who we're connecting with for them. Like we need to connect with them because maybe they don't have someone that they can connect to or relate to. It's so much different than just staying in touch or checking in.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Should we move on to our last column? So our last list here is what the world needs right now. So think about what the world is in need of. My oldest daughter has this great t-shirt and it's a little picture of the globe, not unlike this one. And then it has like these alien saucers flying all around it. And they're shining their little laser beam lights onto Earth. And the t-shirt says, "Send help." She was wearing that the other day and I thought it was highly, highly appropriate. So what does the world need right now? What is the world in need of? So think on that.
It could be, yeah. So when we say what's the world in need of, it could be, again, thinking in terms of material assets or spiritual assets, or you could look at it physical needs, emotional needs, spiritual needs. You could look at it through kind of a Maslow's hierarchy view. So examples that we thought of are like obviously healthcare workers and medical equipment, connection, financial know-how, financial acumen right now, and competent leadership. One of the things that's on great display right now, in my strong opinion, is incompetent leadership. And so what that means is that the world is in need of leaders. We've got plenty of deniers and freaker outers. We need leaders. So what say you? And you can raise your hand or you can put it in the chat. What do you think the world needs right now? Just a few things.
Mike and I both started singing the same song, it sounds like, because he wrote "Love, Sweet Love." It's the only thing that little love. I had that song running in my mind too, Mike. And truth, I see in the chat, connection, humor, sense of purpose, sense of belonging, truth, authenticity, and art. Yes, we and do. I love that. We need certainty and security. Sorry, Em, I'm going too fast, maybe.
No, that's fine. I'm good.
You are fast. Keeping up with us. My goodness.
Just keep repeating ones I've missed. Can't get them all, but we'll try to get a good sampling.
Sense of community, lack of judgment. Let's see. I lost it. One out. Sense of community, lack of judgment, unconditional love, compassion, support, forgiveness, courage. Patience. Leadership, compassion, community, clarity, awareness of that we're all connected. What affects you also affects me. Grace, peace, money, hope, laughter, and leadership. And I see prayer, love, to notice the positive and beauty, calmness, and trust. Somebody else want to read some? I'm gonna, let me see, Jason's.
Go ahead, Jen.
Sure. Patience, empathy, physical space apart. Very literal. Strength, fun. Yeah, we do some fun right now, don't we? Sports, yeah. Mike says to lighten up, to realize our similarities rather than our differences, to listen to one another and love. Mike Rainey says comfort, long-term perspective. Yeah, recognition of existing freedoms. Joy, gentleness, and kindness. And silence and not knowing. Oh, I'm sorry, being with silence and not knowing. That's an interesting one. Hope. Realize we don't need that much. Learn from all of this. Really
Chicken
good.
soup.
Chicken soup, yeah. Good food. We need good food right now. Comfort food.
I randomly thought I needed matzo ball soup the other day. I'm yet to fulfill, but I don't know why it came to mind, but matzo ball soup.
Simplicity and the complexity. Beautifully said, Samantha.
So such great answers.
I'm going to throw out one. Teachers, not just the actual teachers in school, but we need more of us teaching others and sharing our knowledge.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, Jen, like the sometimes they're referred to as like spiritual archetypes, like warrior, artist, teacher, messenger. Like I think what we need, especially in our country, is we need people that are being their true selves. Like the things that if you had a skill that you didn't think was important when everything was all, hunky-dory, I'm sure that skill is important now in some way. It's transferable in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I think the world needs, this has been, I think, mentioned, but a sense to really tap into the strength that comes from connectedness. So it is connectedness, but it's like allowing that strength that comes from connectedness. And maybe it's a bit of sacrifice too, like knowing that you are sacrificing what you can so that because we're connected, somebody else can sustain, or a community organization can sustain, or a nonprofit can do a little bit more for people who they wouldn't be able to serve. So I'm not exactly sure to maybe strength and sacrifice, some kind of a summation of that.
Yeah, it's almost like a little bit of generosity too. We talked about deniers. There's deniers, hoarders, and spreaders. And not to tribalize everyone, but there's plenty to go around if there's plenty to go around, especially in our country, if we work together. And
so you can see the evolution of my my handwriting. Once I get, it's like a musician. Once I get warmed up, it looks like this. In the beginning, it looks like.
Mine goes the other way.
All right, this is great.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So let's dig in to this last exercise. So we can really reveal the magic here. So if you look at your list of material assets, your own personal list, you can look at the one that's up on the screen that we all put together, grabbed as many as I could from people's contributions. and then the spiritual assets, and finally what the world needs. So this next exercise is really more of a, not necessarily a list, but a consideration of maybe a little practice of connecting the dots. So what do you see that could be connected? Can you make any of those connections? And I mean like connecting something from the first column, material assets, to the spiritual assets, to what the world needs. For instance, maybe a material asset, I think I said, was my creative like gear, like all my art supplies. And then I can pair that with my curiosity, let's say, to grab a spiritual asset. And that connects to people needing, I think somebody said, we need to lighten up, right? And so maybe those things can connect to provide what the world needs. So that's the exercise here.
That's a great example.
Yeah, great example. We have a couple people jumping off, and just want to. A lot of people have asked if they can get a copy of this that you're creating here, and I assure them, indeed, we'll get everybody a copy.
And we'll be sending out the recording as well. So thank you for coming if you have to go.
Similar thing. If you have these in this intersection of these three areas, if you feel like sharing what came up for you, either raise your hand or put it in the chat box, please. Yes, that's true, Mike. Hiking boots and steadiness will result in physical space unless you go out to Violet Crown Trail on Sunday, and it was like being at the mall. So I need to find a different place to hike here in Austin where there's less humans. Thank you, Anne. That's beautiful. That is one of your great gifts.
What is Anne saying?
My ability to listen or be with people who are sick would help. I'd love to volunteer. Anne is you have that interesting blend of like being a social worker and dealing with social policy, but also coaching people on a one-to-one level. That's quite the combo of material and spiritual. Oh, thanks, Nicole. Reimer's Ranch is what Nicole said. Reimer's Ranch is when we went on our company retreat and I told you all to check for ticks after we got done. So.
One thing I see in these three lists is like, this has already happened, but Zoom connected to yoga equals sports. You know, that's one connection that's been made. And I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I think too, like the new tribal leaders of this new era, the new leaders of this tribe of humans are going to be the connectors of these various resources. So maybe you have art, you have the material asset of art supplies, the spiritual asset of creativity, and the world needs more art. And maybe you couple that with your ability to hold space and listen, and that's what will start to create like communities that are based off of contributing to the needs of the world rather than some other construct that was deemed important at some point.
Maybe there's another one that I see, like food, baking skills, comfort. There's another little connection.
Yeah.
I see home, and then I see laughter, and I think of like Jimmy Fallon doing the Tonight Show from his house with his wife as his camera person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his daughter the signs and stuff.
Yes, and his daughter making the graphics.
Mm-hmm. We got a few thoughts in our chat here.
Awesome.
Erica says, my work with companies to hire veterans connects all of those. And
Amen.
Erica says, the connection I see on my list is that I have my technology, space, material, my spiritual asset of curiosity, and my story, past crisis experience, combining with the world's needs of authenticity, plus the ability to learn from experience, plus space to be with questions. I love that. Good stuff.
I think what's interesting is many of us might already be doing this, connecting these dots. And sometimes it's just a matter of expressing it and sharing that you're doing this work, or telling others about it, and making that more well known.
Mm-hmm.
Inviting people into that instead of holding it.
And organizing your time maybe a little bit more around it. Because I think the thing with spiritual assets is they're often in existence at a very inherent level. So we're not always fully aware of how we are behaving them. And so becoming aware and then connecting that to what is really needed, that increases the value and the perceived value.
Yeah. I have a friend named Scott Monty who is a big time guy on social, like B2B social, and he used to be the head of social media for Ford. And immediately when this hit, he took his material asset of his connections or his reach, his influence, with his spiritual asset of compassion, and he created a list that other people can contribute to of brands that are using this time to do good in the world, and which is going back to kind of stability or surety in the fact that there are companies and leaders of companies doing extraordinary things, like Bob Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, having his private plane fly to China, buy 1 million masks, and come back and distribute them to hospitals in New York. You get a New England Patriot owner distributing things to New York City. That's pretty cool. That's connection here.
Connections.
And if it's not clear, I guess it's our position or our view at Root and River that when you combine these three things, that is meaning. And so there may be a little voice that you're like, I don't know if people need this, or does this matter and everything. But if it's material asset blended with spiritual asset blended with what the world needs, we promise you it is meaningful to someone. Yeah. And maybe it's just loving people, telling the people around you that you love them. Maybe that's it, but that's okay. That's still meaning.
This isn't necessarily something where you may not have an aha moment right now, but I think this way of thinking and taking an inventory can stay with you and can keep generating some new ideas, not just for how you're living, but also how you may be retooling yourself from a professional perspective. So looking at your material assets, your spiritual assets, and then what the world needs. You may have to shift your thinking and think about this exercise in those terms, in terms of business or in terms of something that you can offer to the world for financial remuneration. But this is a great place to start to really uncover how you're connecting to what is present and what is relevant right now for the world and for other people that you might be able to serve.
Yeah.
So Sammy wanted to know, can you tell us how you came up with this outline? So we all worked on this together, and there was some inspiration that I took from an exercise that I did in another group that I'm connected with. So we sort of did this cross-section in a completely different way. But as we started talking about material assets and spiritual assets, it sort of developed as in a team discussion.
Yeah. It was
we originally had external material assets was external, spiritual was internal.
Mhm.
We felt it was important to start with like looking outward too at the beginning.
Mhm. Yeah, I think this too, Sammy, is born of this. If you imagine a triangle, with one side is psychology, the other is biology, and the bottom is, let's call it soulology. And those are kind of the trichotomous aspects of being a human. And so this coming in threes was also somewhat by design, because your biology and your psychology and your soulology are all interconnected, and they feed off of each other, and they echo within each other. So by looking at things in terms of assets and needs, and then application, then you're able to create some balance or harmony within those three things. So the last question that we have for you is a two-word checkout. And the two-word checkout is, what are you going to do about this? In 2 words, what are you going to do? And that could be tomorrow. It could be right after you hang up. It could be just something that's in the future. But just type into the chat in 2 words, what are you going to do next? Or what are you going to do now? You want to read those, Kat? You're muted.
Start writing authentically louder. Keep writing into action. Connect dots. Plant flowers. Let's see. Reach out. Start sharing. Remain calm. Let's see if I got. I'm going to start again. Start writing authentically louder. Keep writing into action. Connect dots. Plant flowers. Reach out. Start sharing. Remain calm. Share light. Love it. Rebirth. Evolve. Good stuff. Create. Exclamation point is the second word, I think.
Good.
And Kara says, thank you. This is a helpful exercise.
Great.
For us too, having you here and being, you know, our ideas are only our ideas when it's the 4 of us, and sometimes we get into a vacuum together, but it's, oh my gosh, made alive and born when we are with others.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Yeah. And especially seeing so many new names of people that I don't think maybe we've met before. So that's extra heartening, of some sort of like cosmic magnet.
Yeah. And Spread Hope M is also, I saw that one. I don't think I shared that one. Spread Hope.
So Cass, yours was plant flowers. Jen, what would yours be?
Mine is help others to write or teach writing skills, something along those lines.
Teach writing.
Could be teach expression.
How about you, Em?
gosh. I mean, for me, I think it's just to continue to create, but I'll continue to look at that list, and I need time. I'm a slow processor, so I need time to meditate and ruminate on everything. And I get so involved in my art for you that I'm kind of in that space. So well, we want to thank everyone for coming. As you mentioned, we will be sending out the recording as well as these drawings. And I created a blank form that we kind of worked off of today. So we'll give that to you, and that'll be a standalone clean sheet for you to print out and to use in the future. And then also, if you're so moved, we are hosting another webinar in a couple of weeks on April the 16th. And that is really about the future of marketing. It's under the title, Will Marketing Matter? In this new reality that's being created right now. So we invite you to that, and we invite you to continue to engage with us. We are doing a little Go Love challenge, #GoLove. It's our way of trying to add and inspire people to add some light and love into the world right now. So you can check that out on our socials as well. Just all different ways for you to engage with us at no cost at all. Just be inspired and come join us in this interesting moment that we're all sharing together.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, thanks. As Kat said, it's just to reiterate, thank you for the inspiration on our end too. It's so encouraging to know that others are feeling and are in similar places. So thank you. Mm-hmm. With that, we'll say goodbye for now, and you'll get like all the stuff that Emily talked about. You'll get that via email in the next couple of days. So. Thank you again to everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Everybody.